Good day, everybody. Alex Oliver here at M3M Studios in downtown Grand Prairie, sitting with a new friend, Mr. Kevin McNee.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about men's feelings tonight. Isn't that weird? People don't do that, right?
Do men have feelings?
Right, Kevin? No. Men don't have feelings. No, not at all. That's because grown men don't cry, and everybody, kind of knows that. So we're going to talk about men's feelings tonight.
There you go.
There we go. Oh, yeah, we're good. All right. We're cooking. Okay, sweet. So, again, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Alexander Oliver on a content creation journey, and Grown Men Don't Cry. Thanks for joining me, Kevin. Let's talk about our coffee mugs.
Yeah.
What do you got there?
This one here is a gift from a friend. She, Cindy Peaver is her name. She gave one to me and one to my partner, Kelly. And yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. It's kind of like, it's a tree. And the way that I think of it is, trees are grounded and they're rooted and solid. And that's one of the things that I try and stay and get back to every day in life, continue grounding myself and being rooted and solid.
Nice. Sounds like you're really at peace with your feelings.
I try to be.
Well, that's good. I'll just say a little bit about my mug. So I got this one in Vancouver. We went on a trip post-COVID with the family, first trip with the family. And it really stuck out to me because I kind of characterize myself as a lone wolf from time to time. So we picked this one up at the Science Center in Vancouver. And it's a great size. It looks awesome. I love it. And yeah, so that's the story behind
It's beauty.
my mug. Okay, cool. Well, you've never met me before, but if there's anything anybody knows about me is that I like to have meaningful conversations in a fun way. You are right now a transformational leader and mentor. Mm-hmm. And I was hoping you could talk about that in depth a little bit more.
Totally. Yeah. So actually one of the things that I've been working on the last little while is gaining clarity on what it is that I do and who I serve. And, my whole mission in becoming like a coach or a life coach or a transformational mentor, whatever that, whatever the title may be, it's all about helping men.
Okay.
One of the things that I made a vow is to help men, and that's who I am, and that's who I want to serve, and exactly how to do that. And one of the biggest things that I've recognized in so many men, including myself, is a lack of self-worth or low self-worth and self-doubt.
Okay.
And that's, doing things the way that we're supposed to do them,
right,
or the things that we should be doing because we don't feel like we're capable, or we doubt ourselves to be able to do the things that we truly want to do. And that's something that has really been showing up a lot for me lately. And in the men's groups, the men's containers that I facilitate, self-worth and self-doubt is, I would say, it's the most common theme amongst men. And yeah, it's a challenge. So it's something that I want to help.
Okay, I'm gonna get a little personal.
Absolutely.
What got you to that point? What made you get that decision? Mm-hmm. Like you're like, I really need to reach out to men. I'm gonna serve men, basically.
Totally. It was like my own rock bottom moment.
Oh, geez. Right? Okay.
My rock bottom ended up being getting everything that I wanted, everything that I thought that I wanted, and that was like wanting to be the leader in business. I wanted to be the decision maker. I wanted to have like a piece of the pie, and I worked my way up the ladder, the corporate ladder, and that was what I was taught that was going to mean success and happiness and fulfillment and joy, and having the family and the wife and the two kids, the boy and girl, the $1 million family, the white picket fence.
So on that journey, like as you were working your way up the ladder, were you putting in 14-hour, 16-hour days? Like, is that what you were doing?
Totally. And
okay.
It's, as growing into, from dispatching to business development and into the general manager's role, now, not only did I go and work at the office for 10, 12 hours a day,
Right.
I also had the cell phone and the emails and looking after like 170 plus employees.
Okay.
And making sure to take care of them too. So yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot.
So I can kind of tell or see what happened. You grew distant from your family, probably a serious disconnect. And is that where your rock bottom kind of hit, or?
Yeah, it was like continuing to do more and more and more, thinking that was going to bring me the happiness and the fulfillment and that feeling of success.
Right.
When all it was me trying to outsource that and recognizing that it wasn't filling the holes. So I was doing that with my work life, and then at home doing the same thing, trying to help out, helping out with the kids. And I mean, as a dad, as a
Be
partner,
super dad.
Yeah,
Yep.
I
hear you.
I wanted to be that.
Yeah.
I believe in a partnership and, taking care of the kids and taking care of the housework. And those are mutual chores. But then going over and above doing things, thinking that I'm like, oh, if I do this, maybe I'll get some love tonight.
Oh, geez.
Right? Or why am I still being picked apart when I'm doing all of this stuff? Plus I'm showing up at work and I'm providing too. So it's like the more that I just do, the less I was getting my wants and needs met.
Right.
And the more frustration there was, the more anger, the built up, the pent up frustration and anger.
Gotcha.
And not knowing how to ask for it.
Gotcha.
Because I lacked that self-worth and the self-love, and doubted the fact that if I was to ask for it, I'd probably just get rejected, because it happened before. So instead of asking, I just didn't ask. I would do more.
And expect.
Yeah. And it was literally a form of manipulation.
Oh, geez.
Which I didn't realize until, going through this kind of like the rock bottom phase, which was like me going outside my marriage and end up meeting someone who was like, saw me.
Oh, geez.
For who I was and give me the love and the attention and everything in a way that I'd never received it before, and just had this connection that I'd never felt. And then going, how am I supposed to deal with this now? Like, how am I supposed to go back to my life,
right,
my marriage, when I know that I've never felt this before?
Gotcha. I got to back you up a little bit. So you're having tough times in your marriage, and you don't want to ask, right? Is it because you didn't want to hear the answer, or
partially because I've heard the answer? Because
you figure, okay,
right? And I heard the answer, so and it was like,
before.
Hey, you know what? I would like to have sex, or I would like to, hold you, or let's do something together that we both will enjoy.
Right.
And, getting turned down or rejected, or just, I'm tired, I got a headache, or it's, Grey's Anatomy is on.
Right. You figured you're doing all this stuff, you're being super dad and providing and
thinking that was what she wanted and what she needed.
Right.
And I was like, oh, well, I'm doing all this stuff, then what the hell? Right. So
if I do this should happen. This is supposed to happen.
That's right.
Cause and effect. Yeah. Okay.
That's all that I knew. Right.
Gotcha.
I didn't know that I was supposed to love myself. I was supposed to be getting all of those things.
No offense, that's weird for a guy to hear. Mm-hmm. It's weird for a guy to say, to love myself. That's an odd concept, and it's not ingrained in our society.
No,
I don't think, because that wasn't a narrative for me growing up, and I know it wasn't a narrative for a lot of people my age growing up, because that's how things were.
Totally.
Back then.
Yeah.
Right? It was the father role was very defined, but so was mother's, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Just two completely separate different times.
Well, and I mean, that's where it comes down to that generational inheritance, right? Our fathers didn't know how to do that.
Right.
because their fathers didn't know how to do that.
Right.
Because their fathers didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
But if you trace it way back when, the fathers actually did know how to do that, right? Before the wars, before, the Industrial Revolution took the fathers away, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of a book called Iron John, but if you haven't, it's one absolutely that I recommend it to all men. I even actually have my dad read it. And it speaks to the Industrial Revolution and the First World War taking the men away. And what happened was when they returned, if they returned, they were traumatized, they were angry, they had post-traumatic stress, they showed up, and these were the men that were the fathers that these boys learned to be men from. They were angry, they drank a lot, they hurt themselves and their wives.
Right.
Or then the Industrial Revolution, when the factories started to open to create the tanks, the guns, what needed to be created for society to grow, the men started to work in factories. And they started to work in offices. So they would go away to work where the boys, the children, didn't get to see what their dads did. Whereas before, they were raised with their dads on the land.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
They were initiated as men by the men. Whereas now they're at home with the women, their moms, being initiated into manhood, but from the feminine. And it was like, as I was reading this, I'm like, holy shit, like this is making so much sense coming down the line and going, oh, well, that makes sense why my dad wouldn't talk to me about feelings. He didn't know how to.
Right. Yeah.
He didn't know that you were allowed to have feelings. It was just like, you're either happy or you're angry. There's no in between.
Yeah, there's that wheel of feelings, right? With all the ones on the outside, look, it feels like there's 100 of them.
Yeah,
and then there's like the middle row, and there's a little circle, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know those ones in a little circle, but after that, I know most of the ones of the middle circle, but outside of that, when it gets complicated, I'm just like, holy cow, I've never really tapped those feelings and understood them and what to do with them. So I really like what you're doing for men, and I've been following you, and I'm so glad you're here tonight to talk about it.
Well, thank you.
And, leading in with that whole loving myself bit, I think kind of plays into why else I wanted to come here tonight to talk was about suicide rates in men across Canada. So in a 2019 study released by Health Canada and the Mental Health Commission of Canada says there's about 4,000 suicides a year, and 75% of them are men. And that's because more men, out of that circle, men are likely to succeed by committing suicide, although more women will attempt it.
Interesting. I never heard that stat before. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's disheartening, it's saddening, and I think it all stems from men not being able to deal with their feelings and their mental health. That's in my opinion. I'm not an expert, I'm an enthusiast, and I care deeply about men because I have a son and I want to bring him up right.
Yeah.
And I want him to bring him up with how to deal with his feelings. You know what I mean? So I'm really happy to have this talk with you. And also when you say, loving yourself, love myself, I think about purpose. So in this day and age, how would you communicate that to men or struggling men on how to define their purpose? And if they've really suffered some blows, like now they can't provide, let's say they lost a job or they lost their wife or there was a death in the family, someone very close to them, dealing with that stuff is hard.
Absolutely.
It's so hard.
100%.
And growing up, you're not really taught how to deal with that. And I want to pass that down to my son. I want him to be able to deal with those feelings, but I got to be able to understand it too. I got to be able to deal with it too.
Totally.
So, what's your strategies? I know you have a support group on Facebook. That's Heart Warriors.
Yep. The Heart
right?
Warriors, yep.
But you also have a Warrior of the Heart accountability group, right? So what are those support groups all about? Could you talk about them a little bit more?
I'll start with, men, just like you were talking about, like dealing with, let's start with their purpose,
Right.
right? So the purpose right now is is a buzzword, right? If you don't know what your soul's purpose or your life purpose is, then what are you doing, right? If you don't have purpose, you don't have drive. There's really nothing for you to work for. So it's about finding purpose in every day. And there's a book that I read called The Four Purposes of Life by Dan Millman. And Dan Millman actually wrote The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, which is also a movie. Okay. And this Four Purposes of Life talks about everything that we do and everything that we are is purposeful. I'm sitting here having a conversation with you right now. That is my purpose for the next time for the time that we're here together. I'm going to enjoy this tea. I'm going to connect here with the people that are watching. That to me is my purpose in this moment, and I'm going to do the best that I can.
I like that.
Right?
I like that.
So
purpose in this moment.
If you don't have a life or soul's purpose right in this moment, that is okay. Continuing to show up with purpose in everything that you do and who you are is going to highlight that down the road, right? And one of the things that I've found, and this is what worked for me, is I've lived 44 years of my life doing life this way. I know a lot of the things that I've tried that I don't like, that I don't want to do. That
that doesn't work.
No, man, I made so many mistakes. I've, all of this, and I'm like, I now know that I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the opposite, and maybe that's going to highlight what my purpose is. When I first had a conversation where I let my walls down, and a friend of mine asked me, "How are you doing?" And for the first time, I didn't say, "Good, thanks, you."
Oh, it's such a canned answer. Hey,
I'm like,
and not everybody's fine. You know that.
No.
Everybody's going through something, but nobody wants to talk about it.
No, exactly.
It's so taboo.
So I just said, you know what, I'm not doing very good.
Oh, yeah?
This is what I'm going through. I'm going through separation, divorce. This is what happened. I've lost half of my friend group.
Wait. How close were you to this person? Like,
I'd known him for 20 years, but we never had a real conversation. Right?
Okay.
And as I thought back to it, I'm like, does anybody really know who I am? Because I was always just good. I was always really good. And out in public, I was smiling. I was happy.
Yeah.
I had the picture perfect life on the outside.
Right.
But nobody truly knew who I was. I never talked about my feelings. I didn't even know that I had them until I was laying in bed going like, man, is this really all there? Is this really it? Like, is this what my life is supposed to be like? Right? And it was those questions going like, I now have everything that I was taught to want, to be successful, happy, on top of the world.
Right.
And I feel like I'm alone, and I'm empty and disconnected, and my relationship is not very strong.
Right.
And my job, yeah, I get paid well, but I'm working, 100 hours a week. And, when you equate that to the time that, when my son is going, oh, I wish he didn't work so much. Right. I'm like, oh, or like when he had his road hockey pads on and my phone would ring and I'd pick up the phone and he'd take his road hockey pads off because he's like, I know that's it.
Right.
Right. And I'm like, man, is this the life that I want to live?
I can echo what you're saying about the feelings. And, a lot of times I'll think to myself, I don't need to share this with anybody. I got this. I just need to work through this, et cetera, et cetera. And then it bottles up and it doesn't come out well.
Totally.
Usually. That's what happens if I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
The thing that I ask people too, men specifically, do you know how to work through it? Have you ever been taught how to work through it or deal with feeling this way or working through it? most times, no, I never have. Then why do you think that you should be able to do that on your own?
Right.
Right? It's like, hey, see that Lamborghini over there? Can you go to do an engine swap on it? Figure it out by yourself. Right? It's like, it makes zero sense. Right? So it's one of those things where, you know, the more that I started to have those conversations and be like, wow, like letting go, like even just like having somebody hear me
Right.
was like incredible.
And don't get me wrong, like I don't bottle everything up.
Totally. No.
I do talk to my wife and we talk about my feelings, but I still sometimes revert to the old ways of, you know what? I got this. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. Just go through the motions and you'll come out cleaner on the other side.
There's a medium, right? There's a happy medium where it's like you do have to build up strength and resilience and be able to weather some storms.
Right. So what do you tell somebody that is obviously going through a tough time, but doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to share, is visibly, you know, stressed out, not feeling well. You can tell they're sick. You can tell they're tired. You can tell, you know, all these things. What could you tell somebody that needs a hand to like open up, to be vulnerable? Because growing up being vulnerable is, you know, I'm going to use the word wussy, but everybody knows
Weak, right?
what I'm saying because that's what the football team used to say. Oh, don't be a wussy.
Yeah, totally.
You don't talk about stuff like that.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't talk about your feelings.
Oh, you're afraid?
You're supposed to be an alpha male.
Yeah.
Everybody's supposed to be an alpha male.
That's right. And that's the thing. And what I would say, the way that and it's tough because, you know, there's people that are bottling up their feelings and ultimately it's that feeling of being alone. It's interesting that you brought up the lone wolf, right? There is billions of lone wolves going around the world right now thinking that they have to weather the storm by themselves.
Right.
Nobody's going to understand. Nobody's listening. Why the hell should I say anything anyways? Nobody wants to hear me complain. It's like, but guess what? You're not complaining. You're just telling the truth. I'm afraid. This is hard. I don't know what to do.
Right.
I'm sad.
Yeah.
I'm angry and I don't know how to process that in a healthy way.
Right.
That's a big one. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what I would say, you're not alone.
That's really good.
Have you ever been angry?
Oh, man.
Right? Have you ever been sad or afraid? Like, it's like, these feelings are universal. We've just never been taught that it's okay to feel them, let alone say that we're feeling them. Right? And that's the thing. And one of the things that we talk about in the group, and I'll talk about the group here in a second as well, is
sorry, I got to pause you just for a second before this thought leaves my mind. So let's say a guy did open up and he said, I'm scared, I'm this, I'm whatever, I'm vulnerable. And he's talking to his buddy or somebody he can trust. We also have to give that person some advice on the receiving end of that, right? Because if that guy's going to be like, nobody wants to hear you complain about your bad day at work or whatever it is you're going through. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Then how likely is that person going to open up to anybody else? They
100%.
Trusted you with those feelings.
100%.
So what's the advice for the receiver, for the guy listening, or girl, or like whoever's listening to the guy open up?
That's a really good question, and that's one that I've had to like make a lot of mistakes on. Right? As guys, as men,
right?
Fixers.
Yeah.
I'll fix your problem.
Exactly.
Oh, here's some advice. Yeah. Here's this, whatever. But so many, and I'll just generalize all of us together, are giving advice from our own projection, right?
Yeah.
We've got our own shit going on.
Yeah.
So we're giving advice, or there's other people giving advice because they're going through their own stuff and they don't want to have a look at that. So it's like, this is where the suck it up mentality comes from.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like,
yeah, dude. Yeah.
If you're feeling this way, I don't want to have to look at that and feel that way either. So you suck it up, to make me feel better, right? So one of the things that I learned is when you truly want to hold space for someone, and this, anyone who's listening and watching, this is the advice. It's, do you want me to just listen? Do you want me to say anything? Or are you looking for advice?
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you say, hey, I just want to like get some stuff off my chest and I need to be heard, okay, I'll hear you. And that's enough.
That's really good advice.
Yeah. It's a powerful one, because I know that, you know, the more that I started to open up and I started to get advice, or it made people feel uncomfortable,
right,
it made me want to like close back up into that shell again.
Yeah.
And that's the worst place.
You don't have the confidence.
That's right. And that's where that, you know, that self-worth and self-doubt comes into play. And it's such a big thing. And realistically, you know, whoever is, you know, putting on that persona is just masking their own insecurities and their own self-doubt and self-worth, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of it before, but like we all wear masks in the world. And there's a guy named Lewis Howes. He's got a podcast called The School of Greatness. And he talks about in his book, the masks of masculinity. And there's a variety of masks that we all wear to cover up who we truly are inside, because we're afraid.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or we're ashamed.
Afraid of the truth.
Afraid of the truth. Or being seen for who we are. Like, I don't want to I don't want to be seen as a wuss.
Well, it's scary as all hell, because you might actually get answers you don't want.
Totally. But the thing about it is like when you bury all of that stuff, they're not going anywhere.
Right.
The only way to access them, because they do hurt sometimes when you access them. Those are what, you know, Carl Jung, he's a German psychologist way back when, talked about the shadow, right? And these shadows that are deep down inside of us, like the shame, the guilt, you know, all of the things that we're holding on to. And, you know, if we're not willing to go and face those, they're always going to be there controlling our lives. And what we're going to do is just put on these layers of armor to cover it. And that's what we've done for so long. You just read the stats. How's that working out?
Yeah.
Right? It's not. So what do we need to do? We need to open up. We need to have more spaces where men, women, children, this is the new generation, where it's like we open up, we talk about our stuff, we get uncomfortable, but there's spaces for us to do that. There's men, there's women, there's people in our lives, our communities that are here to hear you, right?
And I think people need to have the confidence too, when they open up about their feelings, that they're going to be okay. And I know when I have opened up in the past, not knowing what is going to happen, and even just letting it off my chest or off my shoulders or whatever you want, just the weightlessness that comes afterwards is so nice. It's just like,
incredible.
Oh, thank God I told you. Thank God I said something, because now it's not crazy like in my brain. It's not racking my heart. I just let it out.
I think of it as like creating some space, right? When we get all this stuff piled in, it's like piled in our head, it's piled in our chest, it's piled in our guts. If we don't have it, when we talk about it, it creates a space to let it out, right?
Oh yeah, it's such a good feeling.
It's so powerful, right? And you know, the way to build confidence with anything, like you said, you take care of your body, right?
Yeah.
You build that muscle. Right? The more that you do it, the better that you get. The more that you talk about your feelings, the more that you express what you're going through, the better that you get, the better it feels, the more that you can tap into like what's really going on and get to the root of the problem. Because, you know, what we're seeing in society today, everything is being treated on the surface.
Oh yeah.
Distraction, pills, pain medication, like all of this stuff is treating the symptoms, but it's never getting to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is what's buried deep inside in the shadows, right? And we all have them.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Oh, man. We talked about so much, and it feels like we've been talking for an hour.
Do you want me to talk about the group?
Which is totally cool. Yeah, let's do that. And
so
then we're going to...
The Heart Warriors Men's Alchemy group is it's a private group for men on Facebook. It's free to join. We get together once online per month and once in person per month here in Grand Prairie. And it's a free circle. It's by donation. And we get together and, we do work together.
And what's that group called again?
It's called Heart Warriors Men's Alchemy.
Heart Warriors Men's Alchemy. I think that's the one I'm part of. There's like 300 people-ish.
Yep, just about. There's 240 guys, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it's...
You were doing every Wednesday, weren't you?
It's going to be, not every Wednesday, but once a month online, once a month in person. So,
okay, cool.
And then, then the next level group is a membership group, and we get together every Tuesday, and we do the work together. It's structured. We do breath work. We do challenges, accountability, and it's for...
Can you give me an example of an accountability?
Yeah. So one of the challenges that we're going to do actually tomorrow is, to connect one-on-one outside of the group.
Oh.
Like outside of tomorrow's in-person circle.
Okay.
Where the men go and they have a conversation with another man outside the group and connect and grow.
Like a real conversation about feelings. A real
conversation, yeah. We'll have questions to
ask
to go a little bit deeper.
Okay.
And, it's all about building the community, right? And I'm telling you, if you have not been a part of a men's group with men supporting men in a safe space, there's absolutely nothing like it. It is going to be the game changer.
Scary. I'm not gonna lie. I've never been part of a men's group or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But that is, I don't know why. Besides everything we talked about tonight, like why would I do that? But I think it might be important to reach out.
It's super important. Like I trained to be a facilitator through an organization called Sacred Sons.
Okay.
And they have like over 200,000 followers on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
They have in-person men's retreats all over the world. And I hosted a men's retreat in Fairmont Hot Springs just about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And the power of men's work, if you haven't looked into men's work, what it is, men supporting men, growing in true brotherhood, it's something that we've never had before. Yeah. And
besides hockey and football.
Yeah. Which is great. Which is great. I played hockey. Background. I played baseball. I was a curler too. And that's powerful, but you never did connect on that deeper level. This is just something that, when your brothers are there supporting you, whatever you're going through, and you can support them, just knowing that you're not alone, like going to the circle and hearing somebody talking about something, I keep referring it to as like that misery loves company. It's actually a positive thing. Oh yeah. Right? Because when you hear of somebody else that's struggling with the same thing as you, it's like, oh yeah. Wow, I'm not alone. And that feels really good. Even though I don't wish pain upon him or me. Right. We're connected, right? I got goosebumps thinking about
it. Oh no. Must be getting cold in here. Yeah, it's all good. Okay. Oh, and lastly, you're also speaking at the Be and Become. It's a virtual summit.
It's a virtual summit, right? This Thursday and Friday. I'm actually
this Thursday and Friday.
Okay. Yeah, I'm speaking on Friday, the 15th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time.
15th, 6 p.m. Do you have a topic? You don't have to tell us, what it's all about.
It's called How to Stop Living Someone Else's Dream and Start Living Your Own.
Nice. Yeah. There it is. Oh, man. I got some dreams.
Well, it's funny. That was one of the questions my partner asked me one time. She said to me, I fulfilled all of my wildest dreams.
Oh, Napoleon Dynamite.
And she goes, what are your dreams? And I literally got choked up because I'm like, I don't know. I said, no one's ever asked me. Wow. And I was like, I'm going to start thinking about what my dreams are, right? I'm only 40 years old. I got a lot of life left.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to start thinking about that. So that's literally since we met, that's what we've been doing is trying to create the life of our dreams, the one that by our own design. And that's truly why I'm doing this. I want to help other
Well,
men do
good
the
for
same thing.
you. I mean, the reason why I've taken this step as well is because I don't want to look back at my life with regret.
Totally.
I want to be
Totally.
like, yeah, I tried this. Yes, I did that. Yes, check, 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 check. I'm not gonna put my head down in the sand and sacrifice everything and set my dreams aside because you have one life on this earth. And you might think you have till the end of time to go chase your dreams later on. If you keep pushing your dreams, it's not going to happen
That's right.
because you could get sick, you could get injured, you could, all of the ifs. And when you're taking care of, people that matter to you, you don't have a choice. Sometimes you have to take care of them. So when you have an opportunity to fulfill your dreams or do something, try something new, by all means, get on that train. So yeah, it's been a slice. I think we've got through everything we wanted to get through tonight and then some. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom. It's been inspirational. I think a lot of men need to hear what you have to say. And I enjoyed the strategies that we talked about tonight about not being alone.
Totally.
Have the confidence to share your feelings. And if you do share and get slapped in the face with a trout, so to speak, it's going to be okay. And you know what? Maybe that person's not going through something that they want to talk about.
And, maybe you're just sharing with the wrong person.
Could be too, yeah.
Right. And that's
Exactly.
the thing is even if you don't have the confidence to share anyways. But find the spaces. They're out there.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. So I challenge men to be a little bit more vulnerable, and I think it's going to be okay. So thank you for taking the time to listen tonight to my podcast on my journey, my content creation journey. And you guys have a good night and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.